We need to fail. We need to fail down here so we don't fail up there.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of The Check-In. Now, I'm not sure what exactly episode this is because we just saw a movie, actually a special screening, where we can't really say how it'll affect the future, but it is June 19th? We just saw The First Man, a new Damien Chazelle movie with Ryan Gosling, and did we like it? Well, let's actually first play the trailer and see if we have different thoughts, but I'm not sure we will, but yeah, just take it away.
All right. Okay.
Oh, makes it way better.
I mean, this also has better effects than it does in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that was probably pretty equal.
Yeah. Be an adventure.
First man to walk on the moon. That'd be something.
We've chosen a job so difficult, requiring so many technological developments. We're gonna have to start from
I mean, I
scratch.
can't even say that this trailer is that disappointing from
It
the
makes
start.
it look more intense.
It doesn't make it look like it's about Neil Armstrong, which I think was what they were struggling with.
Only after we master these tasks do we consider trying to land on the moon.
Like, it says, like, we're going to be doing all these tests before we even do the moon landing. We're going to go right from Apollo.
Yeah.
We're going to go from the Gemini program and go all the way to Apollo 1. That's so much.
Damn, that is a big mother. It'll go up like a half-kiloton A-bomb if it blows.
The vehicle's not safe.
We need to fail
And it's
down
not
here
necessarily
so we
all
don't fail up
about
there.
that.
This isn't just another
It's
trip.
not, but it definitely doesn't... I don't think this is a great trailer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that this was... If I'd seen it... I know I've seen the movie already. And
It makes it look way more
not
intense.
to spoil anything, but my reaction is not as positive as other people might have preferred, as in Damien Chazelle fans. But
It makes it look like Interstellar 2.0, if I'm being honest, and it's not that.
it's not. It's about... I don't know. It seems very weird. Honestly, it seems like it doesn't know what tone it wants, and the movie kind of reflects that
I
a
would say
little
the movie's
bit.
a hard drama with some
What was that fire thing? What was that last bit? And that, like, there's shots in here that aren't in the movie.
explosive imagery, I would say.
Like, the whole movie isn't as explosive in terms of the visuals as this is.
We've got this under control.
You're a bunch of boys. You don't have anything under control.
And there's the one of the two times she, like, really has to emote in her acting.
Well, hey, she was good.
No, but, like, strong. Like yeah, that kind of stuff.
Is he gonna do it?
Well... Okay, so no, that did not look...
All I'll say is that I did like the movie, but I'll let you start off. What were your opinions and first thoughts?
I didn't like the movie. But just for a little bit of, like, reference, I really enjoyed Whiplash. Not, like, probably my favorite of that year, but I am one of the few who, I don't even hate it. And I'm in the
Not beginning
minority of
again.
people who don't prefer La La Land. Like, I wouldn't watch it over and over and over again, and I wouldn't make it seem like it's one of the greatest movies of all time. And this movie, even though it's not written by Chazelle, there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily always appreciate from him. And I'm not saying it's all his fault, because different writer, different producers, like, it's a big collaborative effort. But the biggest thing about this movie that I didn't like was the fact that I didn't connect to Armstrong as a character, because they pretty much, the entire film, it spans from pretty much when he was selected to be part of the Gemini project, which, if those of you who don't know, Gemini this number, Gemini that number, that was before the Apollo program. So they go from there all the way to Apollo 11. So they're trying to also cram in the historical aspect of the entire, pretty much from 1961 to 1969 in one film. And in doing that, they don't allow me to connect with the character as much, and the pacing is constantly going from either too slow or too fast, and the too fast bits are where the emotional elements are supposed to kick in, and I don't necessarily always connect with Ryan Gosling when he's playing lead roles like this, because I think he's very good at specific roles, but his kind of dry sensibility about him it doesn't exactly help because Neil Armstrong, they wanted to depict him here as a character who's very blasé about everything, but a character who's also struggling because of kind of a big... Well, no, spoilers.
Yeah.
If anybody hasn't seen it yet, but this is part of history, so it's not exactly spoilers in terms of film. He lost a daughter, and that...
I didn't know that going in.
That tries to bring a big element to the film. And I'm not saying it completely fails, it didn't completely succeed because they try to make him very... not in his right mind with anything that he's really doing. There's a lot of like shaky camera shots. They try to give you the perception of Armstrong, which I think was trying to mirror the idea of if you go to space, you get a different perspective. They had a whole big speech on that. But that didn't come across. Like, I just thought of that right now. And I don't think it came across as well because I think that when you have the movie be more about the whole space program, like when he eventually landed on the moon, spoiler, I didn't get his drive and goal to do that. It seemed like he was very fine just being the guy they could turn to if they needed him, which isn't great for a protagonist that you want to see kind of push through. And with these real life stories, you can't consider the protagonist the same as if you write a fictional story, but in comparison, and I hate doing this, but I have to just because of how similar they are, Jim Lovell, Tom Hanks, in Apollo 13, his whole thing of getting to the moon, they hammer it in. They say that he's been on multiple missions. He wants to go there. The fact that he doesn't go there is really heartbreaking, but he's got to focus on the mission. And he's much more active because there are more conflicts. And again, that's a mission that went terribly wrong, and that movie was devoted to an entire Apollo mission versus Apollo 11. Well, this movie, which wasn't just Apollo 11 when they landed on the moon, it was Armstrong's entire career in space. But that's the biggest thing, is that they had to include so many set pieces that there were long sequences of him in Gemini this, or in Apollo this, or doing this in space, or that in space, or this as a pilot, that the other things that were like sprinkled in had to be done and dealt with so quickly that I couldn't latch onto anything and feel like I was experiencing a movie versus being regurgitated what was happening, with the rare events of scenes where it actually seemed like there were characteristics of these characters and problems and conflict in a typical film coming through. But otherwise, I could have just read Armstrong's account on what happened, because that's the point, is that just because things are the way they happened in real life doesn't mean it makes for a good film. And there were more specific things that kind of resulted in why I think this way, but I don't remember them all, and it'd be impossible to name. Mm-hmm. But I think that's my main thing about it. And I know partially you agree, even though you liked it more.
I liked it. For the most part, I thought it was a good movie, but the ending kind of brought up to a great movie. The reason I actually really like this movie is because, I'll give you a little flashback or backstory as well. I love Whiplash, and I love La La Land even more. But The First Man, I actually like that it's not style over substance, which I can actually say Damien Chazelle kind of does that, maybe a little too much sometimes, but here, he took his time, he didn't write it, he's just directing a movie he thought was interesting, and I can compliment him for that. But for the most part, I found it interesting because I, like you, knew about the space missions, but I didn't know about his backstory, and I really found the family dynamic really interesting here. The first act and the third act are really good. That second act kind of makes it a bit tedious, and I can kind of see why people find it boring. But we begin with the daughter dying with cancer. I mean, I guess we begin with him flying, because that's his introduction and the cold open. And yeah, it's kind of long. It's like a 5-minute sequence. But the daughter dying, he's the only one who shows emotion with that. Not Claire Foy, not the sons. But I like his little scenes of like either keeping it reserved or crying quietly to himself. I can't say it's Ryan Gosling's fault, because he kind of pandered to the more, I'm going to be kind of stoic here, and I'm not really sure if the character really was like that, but it's his history, so I'm pretty sure it was. But then again, that second act, I kind of felt like some stuff was unnecessary, but I don't really know what I would take out, because it's all kind of true. Like, they're doing missions, they're going to space, oh, it's not working, we have to go back, oh, Claire Foy is mad because, he's not talking to the sons that he's about to leave, which was a good scene, but again, the sons aren't really in it that much, you don't get much from them, but, like, Claire Foy is talking with the other neighbors, like, everything's just good, but the moment I thought, I didn't even love it, but the moment I thought it would became great is when they go to the moon, what everyone goes in to see, what it's basically all about, the moon landing. I thought it was good with, better effects, we'll see. But I really love the moment when he lets go of the bracelet his daughter has, because there's a scene earlier on where it's like, oh, what are you going to take to the moon? And he's like, oh, I just need more fuel. He's keeping it reserved, and everyone's like kind of joking. The moment he lets go of the bracelet, I'm like, yes, this is the theme of the film. This is what's driving the motivation and the audience. And I really like it for that reason. The score's, swelling up. And I just kind of fell in love with that moment alone, but not the whole film as much. So overall, yeah, I liked it, but I mean, there are subtle moments, like I really like moments where like the perfect 3-act beat where stuff goes into the darkness, like in the beginning, when they're trying to dock, they have to undock because it's not working correctly, and then the docking device kind of goes out into space and they can't reach it. Or in the middle when he's talking, when they're having like a party at the backyard, and then he goes into the door and it's like a shot of like him going into the darkness. I really like the moment at the end when he leaves the bracelet and it just goes out into the moon, like it's a part of him. Like, I don't know, everything just kind of goes back to that moment. So I liked it because of that mainly.
I mean, I think to kind of, it's not even completely a compliment, but the film tries, which I never want to come away from a film and that's what I've brought up. But the one thing I understood, but again, you don't want to, I understood why they made that choice. You just want to watch a film and experience it. But on the bright side, I kind of understand what they were doing with the sense of loss. Because there's a lot of bits in history where astronauts were lost, and those astronauts were characters in this film. And about midway through, I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're kind of doing with the fact that he's so used to going to funerals, he's used to losing everybody. But again, they don't really, the direction of the film is much weaker than I would have preferred, because I think that there's segments where you don't quite know what happens if we don't do this. Like, there is a scene, Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong is doing this in a scene that seems important, but if the audience doesn't know what happens if they don't do it right, then there's no suspense and no tension. And a lot of the suspense and tension that I got was stuff from, like, historical things that I knew. The second I heard this character, I was like, uh-oh, that character's gonna die. Or the second I heard this, I'm like, oh, that means this is gonna happen. Oh, I agree with you. And things
I
like that
Apollo
are gonna
13
happen.
better, like, a lot. But
yeah, but
even if I found, like, Gravity and Interstellar more, like, enjoyable and more entertaining, this one I just thought kind of took its time, even though it was like a 2-hour, 20-minute movie. I hope they cut that out. I feel like it took its time with the drama that really hit home by the end with the character. But again, like, it's not the most entertaining aspect. I will say that it's better than half of the Oscar nominees last year. But again, I don't think that this movie has any Oscar potential except maybe the music, maybe. Yeah. But like Darkest Hour and The Post, I feel like this was a better drama to hit home with. But yeah, overall, me personally, I found it to be just a good, even a great film just for a one-time watch. You should see it at the theaters if you're going to watch it, because if you're going to be at your house, you kind of probably pause it a lot, maybe forget about it. But if you're in the theater, just watch it. And I will say, since this is for the future, I kind of predict a maybe 70, 75 Rotten Tomatoes score. If I'm being honest.
I'd be surprised if it was any higher.
Definitely fresh, but...
yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't give it something that fresh, because I didn't like it overall, but I think that...
I would give it...
I think it'll probably be in the 70s or the 80s, and I also think that... I guess it's worth seeing if you're the right type of audience. The thing I will say is that if you have seen any of the work of a certain director, writer, whoever's involved in this film, if you look at that name and say, oh, I saw that film of theirs and I wasn't a fan of it, you will not be a fan of this film. Like, I can pretty much guarantee that everybody who worked on this film, I looked at their credits, and all the credits they have are better than this film.
Did you like it better than Sully?
No, I didn't.
I think I did. I'm not sure. I have to kind of sleep on that. But
as far as the, like, who's the writer? Oh, he's this writer. He worked on this. He worked on that. Oh, who's the director? He worked on this, worked on that. I think all of the past work that those people did on their own is better than this film. So if you didn't like that past work, as far as both of us trying to give you the best, what you are checking in with us about if you should go see a movie, I would say that really assess if you think you're going to like it. If there's any doubt that you're going to not like it, don't see it. But if you want to be somewhat entertained and intrigued by the concept, I definitely would say go see it. But for me, do you want to say the
Well, yeah, there you go. I was about to say I think I would give it a B+, 7.5 out of 10. But for the mic check grade, I would say it's a full price drama. But yeah, I can see how some people might not like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it as much as I don't like some of the Redbox stuff that I've graded, but it is a good enough film. To some, I would feel to give it and accept as a gift, and I would probably be more toward, which is why I'd be more toward a C+. And the only reason there's the plus in there is because there's certain moments in the movie that redeem elements of the movie, the rest of the part. So it's the reason I give it a C+. So we're kind of like one notch above / below each other when it comes to this, but it's still.
I never felt bored, but some stuff was
road.
Better than I like some scenes were definitely better than other scenes. But yeah, in conclusion, I felt that I can actually exactly kind of agree with you. Just I liked it a bit more. I 100% say that. I can see how people would like it, would dislike it, but what I will not agree with is how people love it and hate on this, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it deserves that level.
No.
But I do think that it is very middle of the road, but people are going to be very, very picky and stingy and arguing over whether it's good or bad, but not great or terrible.
No. Well, thanks for listening. Obviously, this isn't going to be posted until, when does it come out? October 27th?
Yeah, as you're listening to this, just know we're sitting here recording it in June. But we obviously can't say anything or release it until that point. But as usual, before you go see a movie, check in with us first. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Do you think you're coming back?